a problem as well?
I don't think it's as big as people say it is, but it's not non-existent. It's very much there. It's not exactly how, you know, they say it is, how it's, you know, hey, come smoke a cigarette. It's mostly, you know, oh, I see my friend smoking a cigarette and my friend seems okay, so then if I do it, then I'll be okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not a big problem. I think it depends on your friends. I think some people are more pushy than others about that sort of thing.
Does it help when your parents talk to you? They tell us as parents, talk to your kids, talk about these things, get it out in the open. Does it help to have your parents?
I think it's important that your parents be open with you and honest about their past, about if they've smoked and why you should or should not do it, especially why you shouldn't do it.
Why you shouldn't do it?
I think sometimes it depends on how they approach you with it. Because there are going to be those kids who are really stubborn and don't want to listen to their parents. You know, they don't. It depends on how they, you know, set it out for you and how you see the effects or, you know, the things that could go wrong.
A little rebellion. And
right.
Well, one of the reasons you are here tonight is because both of you participated in Teens Teaming Up Against Tobacco. I got it out. It is a public service announcement campaign that was held, and why don't you tell us about it? You put together some PSAs, public service announcements, against smoking. How did this come about?
Well, Terrence came into our class and he was talking about the public service announcements, and then after that we broke up into like 6 groups and each did our own, you know, we brainstormed ideas and everything, and then we each took an idea and went out and videotaped it, and then after that we sent them in for the tobacco project.
Okay. How did you get your ideas, Andy?
We just had a big brainstorming session in class one day and thought of all the negative factors of smoking we could think of, and it lasted quite a while, actually.
There's a lot of negative factors to smoking to go through, yes.
One of the biggest things for us was secondhand smoke. And that was a major theme in most of the PSAs.
When you have to breathe somebody else's cigarette smoke.
Exactly.
You choose not to smoke, but somebody else does, and you pay the price. Now, these PSAs, how long did it take you to put them together?
We had about, wouldn't you say, a week maybe?
Yeah, we worked on it for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah, and then they were just 25 seconds long, and we just one day, it was a duration of maybe 2 or 3 days maybe, that we all went out and we taped them in, you know, like different different rooms in the building. But yeah, we all got them done in our 6th period drama class and everything.
Do you think it's effective having teens talking to other teens about smoking like this?
I think it definitely is. It reinforces, I mean, sometimes if a parent tells you not to smoke, it doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't mean as much, but when a peer tells you and advises you that it's bad, sometimes you just take a little more notice to it.
If a peer is looking at you and saying, if this isn't cool, don't do this. Yeah.
It definitely helps that they're on your level already. You know, they kind of, you know, speak your language, so to say, but yeah, that definitely helps that they are your peers and your friends, and you listen to them more than you listen to your parents.
And it's a type of peer pressure, but negative peer pressure away from something is easier to go along with than peer pressure to take up something.
That's a very good point. That's an excellent point. And we need more of that. You know, in the adult world now, smoking is really passé. It just is not something that is smiled upon. And we need to get that message through to teenagers, too. We need to make that transition and make that for teenagers as well. Now, we are going to show these PSAs. There actually were quite a lot of them submitted in this contest, and we are going to show yours tonight, plus some others from Southside High School. And I also want to mention that TV 39 is going to be airing these PSAs periodically for the next few months, so you're going to be seeing them on our air here. The least we can do. We were very pleased to do it. So why don't we go ahead and take a look at these PSAs right now. Teens Against Smoking.
I smoked, but I never made the team. I wasn't fast enough. I was too slow. You wanna know why? I smoke. Don't smoke.
My grandpa was in World War II, but it wasn't the war that killed him.
My grandpa started smoking when he was 13. He quit 20 years ago, but that wasn't soon enough. He died of emphysema in 1996.
My grandpa died from lung cancer in 1994.
He wasn't there for my 16th birthday. He won't be there for my graduation.
Want to hear another sob story? But this is serious. Smoking hurts the ones left behind.
There are over 300 known poisons in cigarette smoke. Even secondhand smoke can cause lung cancer and emphysema. Remember, you have a filter. They don't. Man, you're the life of the party.
Okay, here's the deal. If you smoke, you're going to die. Smoking equals death. Smoking, death. Smoking, death. You understand me? Good.
Smoking, death. Got it, folks? Okay, I think we've all made the connection. Joining me now, as I said earlier in the program, Dr. Deborah McMahon, the Allen County Health Commissioner, and Terrence Kendrick. Thank you so much for coming and joining us tonight. And you must be very proud of these students and what they've done with this program.
It's been amazing. When we saw the videos, I mean, we were expecting, you know, good work, obviously, but it was amazing how much content these kids had in their PSAs in 25 seconds. They really managed to convey a lot of impact. So we were really surprised by that.
They hit the nail on the head.
Yes. Yes.
How did you come up with a PSA idea, Terrence? Where did this come from?
Well, I'm part of the Infant Morbidity and Mortality Task Force, and I had the Committee of Teen Smoking, and we thought, just brainstorming, that it would be a great idea if the teens give a message. It would be better received from them than by us.
Okay, and I want to mention that our phone lines are open tonight. If you would like to call in and ask a question, we would love to hear from you. Obviously, the statistics that we talked about off the top of the show, I was surprised when I saw those. I couldn't believe that many teenagers were smoking. This is a big problem. Dr. McMahon, does it matter the earlier you start, how bad the addiction will be and the complications later?
You know, I think they're really just in the process of really looking at that, but there's certain evidence that suggests that it's harder for kids to stop. And that may be because their anatomy and physiology is different. You know, their neurologic system is just in the process of developing, and then you're exposing it to, you know, 400,000 chemicals, that may have a stronger impact on them. But it does appear to be more difficult for them to stop. So I think that suggests some sort of biologic problem.
You agree with that, Terrence?
Oh, definitely. What we've noticed is the 70% of the smokers, 90% of the smokers want to quit smoking, but less than 3% actually do.
Whoa, that's a lopsided statistic,
Yes,
isn't it?
yes, it is.
Not good at all. This came about through infant mortality. What does that have to do with smoking? Tell us about the relationship there and what it's all about.
Well, Allen County actually has a higher infant mortality rate than either the state or the country, and that's been a trend that we've seen over a few years. And so we decided that we needed to get the stakeholders who actually have contact with these people together and let them come up with an idea, how can we impact this problem in our community? And so we invited members of Minority Health Coalition, Healthier Moms and Babies, neighborhood health clinics, Parkview, a lot of different, or Indiana Perinatal Network, a lot of different people together, and we gave them the information. You know, this is the problem, this is the magnitude of the problem in our community, these are some of the risk factors, and we wanted them to decide what as a group we should do, what we should focus on, and then what we should specifically do. What was amazing, within 5 minutes, they had all decided smoking was the problem, and that we needed to work on that. And they decided to break off into 3 groups. One would help providers become aware of different programs and resources that might be available if they have pregnant moms who are smoking. Another group decided to educate the community. We've had a press conference. We've had a number of articles in the newspaper about infant mortality and SIDS and low birth weight and smoking. And then the teen group was going to be more involved in primary prevention, how it's so much easier to prevent a kid from starting to smoke than trying to get them to stop. And then that group decided to have the PSA contest. So, you know, smoking is the most modifiable behavior that causes infant mortality, and so wisely the task force decided to focus on that.
Do you feel like it's been a success, Terrence? Do you feel like you're reaching
Definitely. As a matter of fact, I personally went out to several high schools. It fits my program. I have a SWAT program called Students Working Against Tobacco. So all I've done is pretty much health presentations that's focused on stopping teenagers from smoking. And we showed a graphic video as far as the dangers of smoking. We also tested the teenagers to find out how much they actually knew. And what was surprising is that a lot of young people that we've tested do know a lot about smoking and how dangerous it is.
It's just amazing to me, the dichotomy there. I mean, the more information we have, and yet the rates keep rising.
Well, what was interesting, we've analyzed the results of these surveys that were given to these kids. What was interesting, the questions they seemed to miss the most were those that really talk about the addiction, the power of addiction. It's almost as if they think it's just another bad behavior, that it's like eating junk food, or it's like, you know, I'm going to study better. You know, they don't realize that you're adding another layer of complexity when you have addiction, a physical addiction. And that's what really seemed to be and I think that's why, you know, it's so much more difficult for them, because they don't realize it's an addictive problem.
I would believe that. I know one young girl who went off to college and started smoking at age 18, and when I asked her why she was smoking, she said, oh, don't worry, I'm going to quit in a few years. I mean, it's not, young people can't get addicted like that. She said, no, I'm going to quit in a few years. I'm just doing it to keep my weight down. That was the big excuse I heard.
Right. Well, they estimate, the CDC estimates about 720,000 children and teens a year will become addicted. That's a lot. And this is in the country, but that's a lot.
Well, we have a caller waiting, so let's go ahead and go to the phone lines. Good evening and welcome to Healthline. You're on the air.
Thank you, Liz. And thank you for all this wonderful information. Nobody so far has mentioned that it is not legal for kids to smoke. And would you care to comment on that and what the penalties might be and how to enforce this?
And thank you for bringing that up. You're absolutely right. Terrence, would you like to address that?
Well, I know when I was growing up, it was legal for young people to smoke. As a matter of fact, we had a smoking hall for high schools where they could actually go in and smoke. Personally, I don't know. I know there's a fine. I don't know what the cost is. But I know it's, in my opinion, it's just a slap on the wrist as far as if you get caught smoking. I don't know if it's really being enforced.
Yeah.
In 1997, when the CDC did a big study on tobacco in kids, what they found, 68% of the kids said that were surveyed that when they went in to buy cigarettes, they were never questioned. They were never asked to show identification.
Really?
But I think that really things are changing. I mean, at least I know when I go in the store now, there are big posters, you know, we are going to ask, we're going to, you know, so I'm hopeful that, you know, people are getting the message and are going to be, you know, tougher about questioning these kids. But she's right, it's an illegal drug.
That's right. They should not be doing it legally. And it's amazing, 10% of 8th graders. Now, how does an 8th grader walk in somewhere and buy cigarettes? I mean, and unless it's a very mature-looking 8th grader, how do they do that?
Yeah. My guess is family, friends, older brothers and sisters. What was even more frightening was 3% of 6th graders were admitted to smoking on a daily basis. 12-year-old kids smoking daily, 3%.
Yep, and that's 27.6% of all 12th graders. That's more than a quarter of our high school seniors are smoking cigarettes.
And if you look at 90% of those kids will likely be addicted the rest of their life. If you look at the health care costs, you know, for the country as a whole, you know, it's staggering.
Now, I don't think people realize all of the risk factors that cigarettes enter into. They know about heart disease and lung cancer, but there are so many others like bladder cancer, oral and mouth cancers. Dr. McMahon, tell us more about the effect of smoking on the body.
Well, I think it's like you said, I don't think there's a cancer that you can have that it isn't related to somehow or another.
Somehow, somewhere,
And especially for young women, cervical cancer. They found that women who smoke have a higher rate of cervical cancer, which is, obviously a cause of not only death, but also infertility and all sorts of problems. Lung disease, I think, certainly cancer is the most frightening word you can hear, but I think what people underestimate is how lung disease, if you just have asthma or COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, how that impacts the quality of your life, or emphysema. These are things that really, you may live, you may survive, but you can't run, you can't, play with your grandkids, you can't do the things that give your life meaning. And I think people really underestimate that, but it's associated with almost everything negative. I mean, it's every cancer is associated with smoking in some fashion.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever had a doctor sit here on the Healthline set and say, yes, smoke, folks.
Yeah,
no.
It'll help control weight.
Yeah, it's amazing. We've had eye doctors on here talking about the eye diseases and eye problems that are complicated by smoking. So it's unbelievable, the effect that it has on the body. Unbelievable.
It's amazing it's still legal.
Yeah, yeah. It is one of the worst drugs out there. Now, the PSAs that we just saw, just a fraction of the PSAs that were actually entered in this contest, Terrence, and I understand that they're being judged tonight, actually, while we speak, right? Tell us about this.
As a matter of fact, members of my drama team, these are students that's focused on abstinence and the dangers of being sexually active. They're going to be judging the videos. So is members of SWAT, Students Working Against Tobacco by Smoke Free Indiana, and some of the library students.
The Teen Advisory Board, and then some of the Department of Health, their teams are going to be involved in judging.
Very good. And then the winners will be announced when?
Actually on February 24th.
Okay.
At our Youth for Fitness Awards. We're going to have awards. Tara Brantley from News 15 will be the master of ceremony, and we're going to have a reception afterwards for the young people. All the students that got involved in the program is invited, so is my SWAT students as well too. So we expect a lot of children to be there as well as adults.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, very good. Well, let's go back to the phone lines. We have another caller waiting. Good evening and welcome to Healthline. You're on the air.
Thank you. I was calling to tell Mr. Kendrick how my children, I have a 7 and a 10-year-old, and I guess he must have done a presentation recently with the SWAT team, and they must have showed some, like he said, a graphic video. And my 7 and 10-year-old have he's really made a wonderful impact on their lives, because they're really against, and they're 7 and 10, but they kind of got the picture, the dangers of smoking. So I wanted to thank him for what he's doing in the community, and just may God bless him, and hopefully, he'll be able to make a greater impact on other children as he's done mine. Thank you.
Very good. Well, thank you for calling in. Now, that must make you feel good to know that you're impacting lives like that.
Yes. As a matter of fact, the video I got from Smoke Free Indiana is very graphic. Teenagers are doing most of the portrayals of how dangerous it is and the effects it had on them as young people. And then I also have a skeleton model that actually smokes a cigarette, and it also shows how it stains the lung. And then I have a cancerous lung that shows it, of course, having cancer. It's dark, as a matter of fact, pitch black, and it has whole pockets in it, which represents emphysema.
Oh, just one look at that, and I would think that would be enough to keep you away. But I guess the big barrier here is, as Ashley was talking about, and earlier, they don't think it's going to happen to them. They think they're too young. It's not going to happen. No problem. Hey, I can kick this anytime I want. Overcoming that must be a real struggle. I mean, trying to break down that barrier.
The best way to deal with the situation is strictly through prevention. If you never start, then you don't have to worry about these problems later on down the line. So that's what we're focused on, prevention. Don't pick it up.
How do you fight the rebellion aspect that kids have?
Personally, I try to use reverse psychology. Children do not like to be told what to do. They don't like to be controlled. So my statement to them is, nicotine controls you. You don't want to be controlled. Don't be a part. in smoking.
That's a good way to look at it. Yes, indeed, and it does control you. Is nicotine not one of the most addictive substances out there?
Oh,
Dr.
it's terribly potent. I mean, I think that, again, that's why people just don't understand. It's not like changing just a bad habit. It's trying to change a bad habit that's addictive, and I think people just don't understand that. The difference.
They just don't get it. Now, how dangerous is secondhand smoke? One of the PSAs we saw dealt with secondhand smoke and the problems. And there are people who say, no, secondhand smoke is not dangerous. It is not dangerous.
No,
you don't
I disagree with that.
Okay.
I think there have been a number of studies that show that chronic exposure to secondhand smoke is linked to different types of cancer and lung disease and ear infections, chronic ear infections in kids, and even in SIDS, even if just somebody smokes in the home, not even, the mother, but someone smokes in the home, that the child's much more likely to die of SIDS. So, I mean, I think that that's a myth that it doesn't have any effects. I think it definitely does.
How about allergies and asthma? Does it just totally destroy that?
Well, it's like people don't get the relationship between, I can't breathe. They always think it's going to happen to an older person. They don't realize as a young person, you could have an allergy to one of those 400,000 chemicals, and you could, it could affect your breathing. It's not just a disease of older folks, but again, and I think that was what, looking at the PSAs, looking at the way they delivered the message was so different than what we would have done. And the things that we would be talking about would be the cancer and this and that. What they talked about was, look, I can't play sports. Look, I can't play basketball like I did, or soccer, or this sort of thing. They focused on different things then, and I think we need to look at that, really look at these PSAs and figure out the differences and because that's telling us what they think is important. It may not be dying at 60 of lung cancer, but maybe not being able to make it on the basketball team is something that might make them reconsider that decision to smoke. So a lot of good information in those PSAs.
Okay. You agree, Terrence, with that? I see you over there shaking your head. Yes.
As a matter of fact, I remember showing a video of a young man who started, and we didn't mention chewing tobacco, how dangerous that is.
Yes. We could do an entire show on chewing tobacco, and I'm glad you brought it up.
Yes, and he started out at the age of 12, and by the age of 18, he got that cancerous sore in his mouth, and he died. I think his name was Steve Marcy, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that is sad. That is a very, as I understand, if you get a mouth cancer like that and it gets into the lymph nodes, that's not good to treat.
Well, and what people don't understand is even if they treat it, you end up brushing your teeth up here. They do such drastic surgery to these people. I think that was the video that Terrence took to the schools. We had some really good pictures of people who had chewed tobacco, and the guy, he doesn't have a jaw and this sort of thing. And so I think they had some good pictures of that.
I remember my husband, when he was in medical school, talking about, he suddenly realized how addictive smoking was when he went into a patient's room, and this man had had his entire lower jaw removed because of smoking. He had terrible emphysema. He'd had one lung removed, actually, and he was smoking through his trach.
I mean, they showed us actually in that video with the kids, and you could just see the kids. I always watch them when they look that part where this lady says, they say tobacco isn't addictive. Then she puts this, cigarette up to her trach, and the kids are like,
Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, that should get the point across.
Yes, it does. It's very graphic. And we hope that they didn't have lunch. Well, that they've already had lunch before they watch this video.
Before they sit down to watch it. If the public wanted to get involved in this, if somebody is sitting out there right now and says, gee, I agree with all of that and I'd kind of like to get involved, are there ways the public can get involved in this program or in this effort?
Well, I think certainly they could call the Department of Health, they could call Minority Health Coalition and say they want to be involved. And I mean, I think what most likely will end up happening is that we'll be dealing with some issue related to kids each year. And, they're welcome to be involved at whatever level they'd like to be involved in. Just call the Health Department or, like I said, Minority Health Coalition and get them involved. There's plenty to do.
Yes, there is a lot to do. What is the one point that you would like to leave with people tonight? We've got about a minute and a half left. What's the one thing you would like for people to take away from this show?
That smoking, the reason we started this campaign was because of infant mortality, and that smoking is the most modifiable risk factor that leads to infant mortality, low birth weight, SIDS. And let's just not do it. Let's help our kids not start, and let's help them stop if they have.
Okay. Terrence?
Personally, I want people who do smoke to understand that not only does it affect them, it affects their children. later on in life, if you smoke, like that video said, you will die eventually at an earlier age than if you had not smoked. And I just want people to understand that it's very important what we do now with our bodies.
Okay.
We're going to pay for it in the long run.
Down the road. Okay,
Yes.
Thank you so much,
Thanks
both
for
of
having
you,
us.
for coming and joining us. And before we close tonight, I would like to say a very special thank you to Mrs. Leanne Bernstein's speech class from Canterbury Middle School. They were in here today joining us at PBS 39, and it was a lot of fun to have them. We're glad they were here. And we're glad you were here. We hope you'll join us again next week for Healthline. Until then, I'm Liz Schatzline. Good night.